All right, so once you understand how grid system works, then you want to move on to using some other parts of Bootstrap probably. So let's just simplify this just a little bit. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to just set this to a regular container. So far, if I just click go live, that's pretty much where we are. Now let's try to put some content inside of this sidebar, inside of this main content, and maybe I'll add a little bit something on top of this as well. So let's actually do that. So I'll go back to this and I'll add another row in here. And for now, let's just put a column in there. I'll add the background there too so we can see what's going on. So there's that part. We have this main content and the sidebar. Now I'm going to go back here. Now let's look into components and forms. So let's start with, I guess, components and move from there. So here we basically have a bunch of different components that are created for us. So for example, if I go under buttons, you'll see we have different buttons of different styles. And you'll see how we have this different colors for these buttons. So when you have a Bootstrap template, you'll have these main colors that are assigned to this different names or whatever we're calling this. So see, it says primary, secondary, success, danger, warning, info. And if you get to customizing Bootstrap, you can get to customize what the primary should be, what the secondary should be. By default, you see the primary is this blue color, the secondary is this grayish color. So we'll probably get to buttons in a little bit, but just to show you, that's kind of the idea here. If I go to button group, you'll see I have this like groups of buttons that are kind of sitting here together. If I go to cards, you'll see we have like this card, whatever you want to call this, and so on. So if I keep moving through this list, see we have this, for example, list groups. Now moving next, we have this navs, for example. And again, I'm skipping some of these, but I encourage you to just navigate through different things to see what's available. So this basically gives you some styles for like doing some sort of navigation. Different things you can use here, as you can see. If I go to this navbar, this basically creates a whole navigation system for you. So let's try to do something like this on top here. So I'll just go ahead and grab one of these. Let's just scroll down and see which one will like better for this. See, we have these color options like having a dark navigation versus having a lighter navigation. Let's just start with the basic navigation we had on top here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this entire nav code, see from nav through nav, and then just scroll down and basically just paste it instead of this top row text. Just like that. So now I have that entire nav sitting inside of this row with a column. So if I save this, go back and take a look, we now have that light grayish navigation here with the drop down and all of this. Basically, this gives you some different elements that you might want in this navigation. Then you start modifying this to what you need this to be. So you go back to this, see we have this nav and it has this container inside of the nav. And the next part is this link. It's basically this first part of this navigation that says navbar. It's basically a hyperlink with this text you have here with currently links set to nothing. So if you want that, you can use it. You can put an image in here if you wanted to. So let me give you an example of that. Let me just go grab an image logo file and put it in here. So here's my logo file. Now, if I want this to show up instead of this text, I would just replace it with an image tag. And to just keep this clean, let me just move it to a separate line. And the source is going to be basically that file. So right now, if I save this and go take a look at this, see, I have this logo, which is pretty large, but it shows up here in this particular position. Now we can restyle this. I just set it to like 50 pixels, so it's smaller, takes less space. Maybe we need even smaller than this. So see, now I have a logo. Now it's clickable right now, but it's not going anywhere because right now this hyperlink for the logo right here is set to the pound key. If you wanted that to go someplace, then this is where you would set where it needs to go. So it would go to that link. This is like regular plain HTML stuff. Now the next one is, as you can see, there's this button. So if you look what we see on the page, it says home as our next link in this particular case. But if I go here, you'll see that home is really this list item inside of this unordered list. But before that, we have this button that shows up here. Now this button right now is hidden. So that button will show up when you start resizing the screen. Let me just drag this out. So if I resize this to a mobile view, see, at some point we have this little thing for our navigation for a mobile device. So that's that button. If you go to a larger device, that's basically just hidden, and that's why we cannot see that. So going forward, if we're trying to have like a home link, see, we have this home link. Now the next one, as you can see, is just a regular link. Now you can see this one is a little bolder than this link. And the difference between this and this is that this one says active. If I remove that active and go back, you'll see these two start looking the same. And usually you assign that active class to the currently active page with JavaScript. But for now, we'll just keep it like this. So home, link. So the next one is this dropdown that has multiple options. So that dropdown is this entire list item, this entire piece right here. And as you can see, it consists of the actual top link that currently says dropdown. So that's pretty much like this. And then it also has the actual items in the dropdown, which are basically located inside of this unordered list. So for example, if we have a navigation, the first one, let's say, is our home page. The second one, let's say, is our About Us page. And the third one is, let's say, different videos we have. So we can do videos. And that should open, in this case, a dropdown. And in this case, we're going to have different items in that videos dropdown. So we can go here and say, Google Sheets videos, and then we'll do something like Excel videos, and then there is this divider. And if I save this so you can see what it is, if I go back and open this, see, these are these two, and there's that basically divider line. So you can keep it, you can remove it if you don't like it. So I'm gonna keep it in there. You can add more dividers. So let's say this one is going to be apps, script, videos, and then we can just copy this line down and create another one, basically just a list item. And if you wanted to do another line separation, you could just do another divider someplace down the line, and we could do another link. So that's kind of the whole idea how this works. The main thing is to be careful and keep the structure accurate. So you have your unordered list, you have the list items. All of that is sitting inside of this main list item, which is the actual main dropdown on top with this hyperlink. So if I go back and take a look, see, we have videos with this two, and this section. And if you wanted to do another dropdown next to this, it would be just as simple as just repeating this list item pattern. So again, you want to be very careful where you're copying this. So my list item, the main one, starts here, ends all the way down here. So I'm going to copy that. and basically just paste it down here. Very often, it might be a very good idea to add some HTML comments here. And in VS Code, I should be able to do command question mark to do this comments. And you could also go in here and add another comment to say, and second dropdown. So doing this type of comment will save you a lot of time later on, because when your HTML gets really complicated, then it's difficult to keep track of this. It's a lot easier to know where things start and where they end. So now if I go ahead and take a look at this, we should have 2 videos drop downs. And obviously you could just go and change the second one to say something else and have different items. So now if I go back, see, I have this, I have that. Now this is a disabled link. See, it's impossible to click on it. And that would be this one. And as you can see, it basically has this class disabled assigned to it. Usually you'll have JavaScript modifying these things to make them disabled or not. But for right now, I don't need that, so I'm going to remove that. It's not very often you'll do something like that in your navigations. And you can see how there's this built-in search in the navigation. And again, if you want one, you can have one. It basically just has this built-in form right inside of that navigation system. And if you don't want it, it's just as simple as just taking this part out. Now, if you remember, there are different styles for your navigation available. So if I scroll down a little bit, see we have this dark. These are the colors I was talking about. Remember, the primary is the blue, and there were a few different options there. So for example, if I just take this, see the dark and BG dark, copy them. Well, actually, let's just start by doing this so you can see what happens. So I'm going to go here all the way on top to the whole navigation. This is the nav. See, this is the light. So I'm going to do dark. So if I go back and take a look at our navigation now, see what happens is that when you do dark navigation, it doesn't really change the background color of the navigation. It changes the text color in the navigation. And basically what it's doing, it's changing all the text to the lighter color so that if you have a darker background, it shows up. Now we have a light background and light text, so we cannot see what's going on. So this is why you need to also change the background color. So if I change it to dark, see that goes to like this dark, kind of close to black color. And that goes with that same system I was talking about. Remember how they had like for buttons like primary, and then it was like secondary. So if I go back and change this to primary, see that goes to like a blue color background. So if I go to buttons, see we have primary, we have this secondary, which is this secondary. So if I go ahead and just use any one of those, like secondary here, let's go check what this looks like. See, we got this kind of lighter gray color, and then we have success, which should be green. We have danger, which should be red color. Dark was that darker color, which is this one. So that's what's basically happening here. And I will change it to dark for now. So you'll see we get basically this. And you can see how this search is this green colored button. So if we go and take a look at that button, which is basically this button, see it says this success, and success is that green color. So if I go ahead and change that, for example, from success to, let's say, primary, you'll see it changes that to this blue color. So the same sort of thing is going to happen here. So if I do like secondary, we'll get this grayish color. So that's kind of how it works. You have this template colors. Again, you could modify them once you get to modification, but by default, you're going to get the colors it has. Let's just remove that button and the form for now. So going to positioning, so let's say we don't want this left aligned. you probably don't want this logo to go to the right with this. You just want this navigation links to go to the right of this. So for that, you can go here and see the way this is structured. We have this navigation, then we have this container. In that container, we have the logo. Then we have that button that's hidden. And then we have this div, which holds that entire second part. See, it goes all the way until here, which has that unordered list with everything else. So if you look in this unordered list, it has this MR auto. So it has this margin right automatic class. Now, if we change that MR auto to ML, margin left automatic basically, and go and take a look, see, it's gonna assign automatic margin here to space it out enough. And now this navigation is on the right hand side instead of being on the left. And again, it's still gonna work with that same, see, it goes to whatever screen size this goes to, and then at some point it just collapses to this. Now let's say we want to change when it is collapsing to that mobile view. So for that, if we go back here and I just scroll up a little bit, see, this has this expand and it has that SM, MD, LG, XL. So let's see if there is any assigned right now. So what's the expand at the moment? So if I go back and take a look, see right here, it says to expand on a large device. So if you change it to like XL for extra large, if I go back and take a look now, it should collapse earlier. Let's just test this. So if I go this much, now it's already collapsing to this. Now let's go change that from XL to LG and save it. So if I go back and take a look, see, I kept the same size, but it's not collapsed yet. So now we went to the large size. So basically we're saying starting from the large size, we want this to be expanded. Now you can go here and play around with this. The same rule applies here for those screen resolutions we were talking about for our grid system. So I can say we want this to start from the medium device, and then it's going to be even more of that until we get to that mobile view. So again, this is going to vary depending on how much stuff you have here. Obviously, the more links you have, the sooner you want to go to a mobile device. And it also depends on your preference, right? How you want this to work. I'm going to go back to LG. That was fine. And then the last couple of things to mention here, right here, see on this unordered list, we have these two classes that we didn't discuss. So we talked about this ML auto, used to be MR auto. I did that to basically shift the navigation to go to the right. And then we have this MB, basically the margin bottom. So this one has default margin bottom of size 2. And then it says for a large screen or greater, it should be 0. So right now, there is no margin bottom for this unordered list for a large size screen. However, if we make this smaller, see if I open this so we can see it, see there is this margin in the bottom after courses. So that's due to that MB2. So if I changed it to, let's say 0, and we go back and take a look at this, I can barely tell any difference. Let's just try to do something bigger. I think 5 is the largest one you can use here. See, now we have a lot of more margin in the bottom of this navigation. So if you wanted to control that, see, that's the default. And then we're basically saying on large device, don't do that margin anymore, which usually would match whatever you have as the expand. So if you're expanding starting on a large size, you'll probably stop doing that on this. Now you could instead say, I want margin on top instead of in the bottom of this entire navigation. So you can go here and you could even keep that one and say MT5. So let's just do something obvious so you can see the difference. So margin top 5. See, we have this entire spacing on top. Now, if you just wanted that to be a little bit, you could do something like this to basically add a little bit of spacing between the logo and the home link. But you want to remember that when you just do this margin top like this, you're basically saying that should apply on all sizes, which means now on the larger size, that's going to be applying as well. So we probably want to remove that on a large size. So we'll basically just do MT-LG0. And that should give you the overall idea how to deal with these navigations. So I'm going to wrap it up on this video, and I'm going to continue on the next video with some other components.